empowerment, it's time we start normalizing the conversation around bladder leakage. A shocking and recent study from Harvard University reported an estimated 45% of women experience some form of urinary incontinence at some point in their lives. That's almost half of all women, and reason enough that it's time for change. And that's why every woman watching today is extraordinarily brave for taking the next few minutes to learn the simple upper body technique that will stop bladder leakage for life. It truly doesn't have to be this way. Women are suffering in silence, and it has been ingrained in us that it's just a normal part of aging. What most women don't realize is there is actually an underlying condition causing this problem, and once it's fixed, you'll be able to get back to easy movements without fear of leakage. You'll no longer have to worry about leaking every time you laugh in the movie theater or sneeze during allergy season. You're going to love that not only will your bladder leakage be healed, but your belly pooch will flatten and your back pain will be permanently gone. And there are two main forms of urinary incontinence. Stress incontinence, which occurs when women leak urine when laughing, sneezing, coughing, jumping, or exercising, when there's any impact or increase of pressure on the pelvic floor. Urgency incontinence, which occurs when women have a strong urge to go to the bathroom and urine leaks out before they get there. These women tend to go to the bathroom frequently throughout the day and even wake up to go at night. And they are both related to one hidden condition that was discovered by a physical therapist who studied at Charles University School of Medicine in Prague in 1952. The unconventional research articles by this physical therapist have now been rediscovered, and women from around the world have found the secret to stopping urinary incontinence in just seconds a day. I'll be showing you this gentle technique next.
It's been a lifesaver. It's truly been a lifesaver because I was kept in my house. Forget COVID, forget lockdowns. I was stuck in my own body because I was afraid to go out because I didn't want to pee myself, you know, and this program it's literally giving me wings. It's literally giving me new life.
I no longer have any kind of accidents. I no longer have to worry that, oh my gosh, I gotta go to the bathroom, I better find that toilet quick. I don't have to worry about that anymore. I have not had one accident since I started.
Hi, I'm Alex Miller. I'm a fitness expert and women's pelvic health specialist from Vancouver, Canada, known best for helping women heal their bodies. My online programs have reached hundreds of thousands of women of all ages. Since 2012, I have taught close to 1 million students from around the world how to get fit and healthy while overcoming unique challenges that only women face. Helping women of all ages feel confident and better about themselves is what gets me out of bed every day. I have been featured at some of the most elite fitness studios in the world, and my wall-to-wall packed classes are attended weekly by leaders in the health industry such as chiropractors, physical therapists, professional athletes, and some of the best known movie celebrities in the world. Over the years, you will find me featured in podcasts, magazines, and several large social media channels for the work I have done helping women. But there's a lot more to me than my successes. I'm here today to talk about much harder times. You wouldn't have recognized me years before when our family was struck with the most horrific moment of our lives. And we thought life would never be the same again. The look of fear and distress on my mom's face as she held her eyes tightly shut and hung up the phone. I have triple negative breast cancer, a rare, life-threatening, and aggressive disease. We were all in shock and devastated by the news. We didn't know at the time that the life-threatening surgeries, destructive chemotherapy, and painful radiation would take away everything she loved about being a woman, affecting her pelvic muscles, bladder health, and self-confidence. In that one short phone call, her entire life changed. The pelvic floor is a woven basket of muscles that hold your bladder, uterus, and bowels. The pelvic floor relaxes to allow us to urinate or have a bowel movement. It contracts to stop the flow of urine, tightens the vagina opening, or prevents us from passing stool or gas. If you've ever experienced accidental leakage, you'll want to keep watching because I'm about to show you the most important pelvic strengthening exercises you'll find anywhere. They're crucial if you want to get back to living an active lifestyle. As well, in this short presentation, you're going to learn about the one tight muscle in your upper body that has been damaging your pelvic muscles, making everything weak down below. If you're one of the millions of Americans who suffer from leaking whenever you laugh, cough, or sneeze, I'm so sorry for what you've been going through. I understand how it impacts everything from your social life to your very identity. And that's why I'm here to help you. My mom's pelvic muscles were frail. Whenever she went out shopping, she would end up with wet pants. She even told me about a few different occasions where she would run across the grocery store to find the restroom. I was worried sick about my mother's health. While this was all happening, my body was quietly being destroyed from the inside out. I was on the verge of losing everything. My dreams of getting pregnant were failing, and because of that, my partner wanted to leave me. I know how deeply this condition can change your life and impact the people around you too. If you've ever felt like you had to wear dark-colored pants in case you leak in public, you're not alone. I used to feel the exact same way, and I'm going to show you how I changed my life by strengthening my pelvic floor. I'm finally able to jump and run again. Not only did I cure my leaking, but also my mom's and thousands of my loyal clients. I'll be revealing to you the #1 invisible malfunction damaging your pelvic area, causing leaking, lower back, hip, and pelvic pain. And the best part is, you're going to be shocked how easy it is to fix. Imagine how good it'll feel to be pain-free and not have to stay close to the bathroom anymore. I'll be sharing with you the 3 wrong things doctors tell women to help firm up their pelvic muscles, but are actually making everything much weaker while causing your accidents to happen more often. If you've been struggling with intimacy due to urine odor or looseness, you'll want to keep watching right now because I'm about to expose the hidden cause that is killing your pelvic area, making sex not feel like it used to, and it's stopping you from having a fulfilling relationship with your spouse. And it gets even better. When your pelvic muscles are stronger, your orgasms will be as well. Leaking is very common, especially for women after childbirth, but it can honestly happen to anyone. And that's why you're going to love the one quick stretch I'm about to show you that will stop you from peeing your pants nearly overnight. In just a few moments, you can begin to free yourself of this condition for good. This leaking has been holding you back from the body you deserve and the life you deserve. Imagine not being chained by the fear of embarrassment and being able to break free from those chains. You'll finally be able to pick up your grandchildren again, and you'll no longer miss out on dinner parties or great times at the lake. It was minutes before the weekend when the call came in. The look of fear and distress on my mom's face as she held her eyes tightly shut and hung up the phone. I have triple negative breast cancer, a rare, life-threatening, and aggressive disease. We were all in shock and devastated by the news. My mom, who had always been my hero, was about to start the most challenging fight of her life. She completed many invasive surgeries, destructive chemotherapy, and painful radiation. While she underwent this terrible treatment, we had no idea what was happening to her body would end up making her feel less comfortable as a woman, affecting her pelvic muscles, bladder control, and confidence. And as my dad watched my mom suffer from this horrible disease, he didn't know that it would end up damaging the relationship in ways he could never have imagined. At the time of my mom's cancer treatment, I didn't know how to handle my emotions. I learned to run away from my panic attacks by going to fitness classes. Tears would stream down my sweat-dripping cheeks every time I moved my body. This escape became my obsession, as well as the beginning of my career as a fitness instructor. What I didn't know was that my body was also being destroyed from the inside out, and I was on my way to developing serious health problems as well. I didn't know then, but I was about to face the same problems as my mom. I'm going to share something that I've been too embarrassed to talk about publicly up until now. One spring afternoon, I was teaching my final class of the day. I yelled out with encouragement to my students, and all of a sudden, I accidentally peed myself. I was devastated. Everyone in the class stared in horror at the sight of me standing at the front of the room, soaked. I bet you can imagine how humiliated I felt. But it gets worse. Little did I know, I had a deadly malfunction hiding in the deepest layers of my body. That's what caused my horrific experience in front of the classroom. This malfunction was causing extreme destruction the more active I was. If you've ever had an accidental leak, you too could be a victim, on the verge of spiraling into other serious health problems as well. Although leaking is more relevant after childbirth, it can happen to any woman at any time. However, the good news is, I found out leaking is so much easier to fix than you could have ever imagined, and I'll be revealing exactly how to next. I started to realize that the exercises that used to make me feel great were actually causing my pelvic muscles to become weak. The worst part was that whenever I tried to jump or run, I was leaking. I started to lose control of my bladder, and I felt lonely and isolated. I had never had children before, and I was personally experiencing the same issues many postpartum women have to deal with. I went to the doctor for help, but it just made it worse. I'll be sharing with you the 3 doctor-recommended things women are told will help stop their leaking, but are actually causing severe damage to their pelvic muscles and bladders. As hard as this experience was for me, it felt like I could finally breathe again because my mom experienced a true miracle that stunned our entire family and her entire medical team. Her cancer went into remission. However, as a result of her cancer treatment, her body was sent into early menopause. It caused dysfunction in her pelvic muscles, and oftentimes she would fail to make it to the bathroom in time. She was constantly leaking. You could tell she was becoming more anxious and insecure as the days went on. She stayed in the house as often as she could and stopped socializing with her friends. It broke my heart. I wish I knew then what I know now, but I'm so glad that I can help you. In a moment, I'll be unveiling the 3 tips doctors are telling women to do during and after menopause that are damaging their pelvic muscles, causing them to leak. My mom tried taking prescription medication to calm her bladder in hopes of stopping her leakage. After waiting several weeks for the expensive drugs to kick in, she started to experience side effects of nausea and heartburn that became worse every time the medication entered her body. She was back to square one, still leaking, and she felt more alone than ever. After peeing myself in front of my class, I was desperate. I had to figure out what was wrong with my body, so that's when I called my doctor. After that appointment, I was sent to several other expensive specialists, all without any signs of improvement. I began to notice a trend happening with all the specialists. They were all sharing with me the exact same 3 tips to stop leakage by strengthening the pelvic floor. I was shocked to find out these 3 things were actually causing more damage to my pelvic muscles while making my bladder even more uncontrollable. I'll be sharing these 3 doctor recommendations shortly. I'm also going to share with you an easy 3-step movement sequence that will stop your leaking, all without toxic medications that carry harmful side effects, diapers and pads that only temporarily fix the problem, or risky surgery that is tremendously expensive and time-consuming. My mom and I both felt like our bodies had been permanently destroyed, but I wasn't ready to throw in the towel just yet. What we didn't know at the time was that just 1 short month later, we would both be glowing with happiness and our leaking would be gone. And if you've been struggling with intimacy with your spouse because of your fear of urine odor or weak pelvic muscles, you'll be amazed how quickly you'll be able to turn things around, gaining your self-confidence and fulfilling relationship back. I'll be sharing with you the 3 tips doctors are telling women to do after having children that is causing leakage, making their pelvic muscles weak, and their bellies bulge. You must stop these, otherwise you could end up with expensive medical bills and debt piling up, and I am absolutely positive your issues are only going to get worse. Did you know? If you feel like your body was never the same after having kids, it could be because you have a separation in your abdominals. Women often think that they just have extra belly fat after their pregnancy. However, that so-called belly bulge, coning, or gap is a splitting of the abdominals known as diastasis recti. A research study from the University of Oslo showed diastasis recti is prevalent in 100% of women during pregnancy, 60% of women 6 weeks after, and 32.6% of women have it years later. I'll be touching more on this in a moment, and I'll be sharing exactly how to repair it to gain a flat, toned tummy. I'm also about to reveal to you the number one invisible malfunction hiding out in the deepest layers of your body. It's causing your abdominal area to bulge, and it's making your pelvic floor weak. Until you solve this sneaky defect, it's going to spiral into much more severe problems, such as back, groin, and hip pain, constipation, reduced sensation in the vagina, painful sex, vaginal heaviness, which may feel like there's a tampon inside, or pelvic organ prolapse, a distinct bulge at the vagina opening. In fact, while you've been spending all of your time on Kegels and lower body exercises, you're going to be shocked when I reveal the real culprit is actually a muscle in your upper body around your chest and shoulders. And I'm going to tell you exactly what muscle that is, and I'll show you how to release it next. Let's start with the 3 doctor recommendations I need to warn you about. Number 1, everyone says that Kegels help strengthen your vaginal walls and pelvic floor. But did you know that this so-called strengthening trick can be extremely unsafe? So many women think their pelvic floor is weak, loose, stretched out. However, most of the time their pelvic floor is so tight that it's actually become weak. Picture a normal rubber band at rest. It's pliable, can stretch, and then go back to its normal tension. It is functional and works very well. This rubber band represents your pelvic floor muscles. However, if the rubber band is chronically tight, overworked, and stretched, it becomes weak. It no longer has room to stretch or work. Instead, it'll break due to its constantly stretched out state. Same thing goes for your pelvic floor muscles when they're overworked and tight. However, not everyone is the same, and I'm going to show you a really easy test you can do that takes just 2 minutes to determine if your pelvic muscles are tight or loose. Based on that, if they're tight, I'm going to tell you to toss those Kegels to the curb, and I'll show you how to release your tight muscles. If your pelvic muscles are loose, I'm going to show you how to do the right kind of Kegels that will actually get you real benefits, rather than wasting your time on all of the squeeze and the release you've been doing without seeing any results. Number 2, women have been told to suck in their bellies to get rid of their pooch, or wear restrictive clothing such as Spanx. But did you know it's making your abdominals and pelvic muscles weak? By constantly sucking it in or holding it in, it creates shallow breathing, which stops the airflow into the rest of your body. Shallow breathing is when you draw minimal breath into the lungs. This means that you only breathe a small amount of air into your chest instead of filling up your lungs. When you can't breathe deeply, your abdominals stop working, which is the communication line between your brain and pelvic floor. It's like having a restrictive corset on your body, squeezing in and shutting down your abdominals, leaving your pelvic floor weak and dysfunctional. Number 3, many women have been told to do crunches to strengthen their abdominals. However, you'll want to stop those crunches immediately if you have diastasis recti, because too much pressure on your core can make your diastasis worse. You'll want to start by reducing any pressure on your core. Even pushing a stroller can be too much. The following exercises are considered diastasis unsafe in the beginning. Any front-loading movements, such as front planks, push-ups, V-sits, rolling like a ball, burpees, pikes on a ball, ab rollouts, crunches, or sit-ups. However, this doesn't mean you can't begin to intensify the abdominal load as you get stronger. While rehabbing diastasis recti, you want to slowly progress to the point where you can handle these front-loading movements, because eventually they become diastasis safe as you get stronger. If you've been moving or exercising in these ways in the beginning, you could be making your leakage and belly pooch much worse because of the deadly malfunction I'm about to reveal to you next. If you're a candidate for any of these doctor recommendations, stop immediately, otherwise you could be standing on the edge of a slippery cliff about to plummet into debilitating illness. If you choose to take the path of surgery, it is risky, painful, and oftentimes it doesn't even work. You'll be forced into overpriced medical bills and months off of work or even playing with your grandchildren in the backyard. I'm about to show you a 3-step movement sequence that will strengthen your pelvic muscles, stop your leaking, and give you fast results you'll notice even on day 1. It's so easy and gentle too. In fact, I was amazed by how fast I stopped my own leaking once I figured out this 3-step method. I've never had a dreadful leak again. And finally, I'm able to get back to the activities I love, such as spending time outdoors and gardening. I'll be telling you exactly what this simple 3-step movement sequence is in a minute. Also, you're not going to believe when I show you how to release the one tight muscle in your upper body that I guarantee you have not thought of that is causing all of your troubles down below. After months and months of wasted medical bills and all of my doctor's advice, I finally hit rock bottom. I couldn't bring myself to go back to the studio again. There was so much pain in my pelvic floor, and I didn't want to risk the embarrassment of leaking again. I called in sick because I didn't want to face anyone. I was sitting in my robe and it was barely noon. I began to search for ways to heal my pelvic floor. I dedicated all of my time reading research studies and personal stories from people all around the world. I was desperate to find a solution, and I couldn't continue to live in a constant state of fear. All of a sudden, I came upon a physical therapist who studied at Charles University School of Medicine in Prague, 1952. I started looking into his unconventional studies, and they were appalling. I was shocked to find out that women are wasting their time on Kegels and crunches while never seeing any results because they actually have an imbalance in their core muscles. And while most doctors have only been trained to look at the organs, this genius of a physical therapist decided to take matters into his own hands and look at the surrounding muscles. This is when he discovered layer syndrome. Layer syndrome is an imbalance of the muscles in the body, and in this case, the muscles in the core are out of balance. Your core is an abdominal canister. The top is your diaphragm, which are your breathing muscles. Your abdominal wall are the sides, and the bottom is your pelvic floor. The pelvic floor is a woven basket of muscles that hold your bladder, uterus, and bowels. The pelvic floor relaxes to allow us to urinate or have a bowel movement. It contracts to stop the flow of urine, tightens the vagina opening, or prevents us from passing stool or gas. When you inhale, your diaphragm presses down, which pushes out on your abdominal wall and down on your pelvic floor. Everything descends down to create space. This should relax your pelvic floor. When you exhale, your diaphragm coils back up, your abdominal wall goes back in, and your pelvic floor lifts back up. This should contract your pelvic floor. If these 3 parts stop working together, it will cause weakness in your pelvic floor. Weakness in your pelvic floor will cause you to lose control of when you go to the bathroom. And I'll be sharing how to breathe correctly in a moment. Shallow breathing is when you draw minimal breath into the lungs. This means that you only breathe a small amount of air into your chest instead of filling up your lungs. I mentioned a few moments ago that shallow breathing is like wearing a restrictive corset that is squeezing in and shutting down your abdominals, the link between your diaphragm and pelvic floor. Your pelvic floor is no longer able to relax and contract automatically. Therefore, it will become weak and frail.